Hi, I wanted to make this as the introduction for my first episode of the Linguistalks. Hi, what you're watching now is the improvised introduction to the first episode of the Linguistalks Podcast. Originally, I wasn't sure if I wanted to turn this into a podcast or not, and the first episode is just going to be the raw material that I used and I sort of condensed into my first video. Since then, I've kind of changed my mind. I've decided that I want to work on this as a secondary project to the main channel, and you can find links to it below if you're watching this on YouTube. If not, then here's the first episode of the podcast. Leave any suggestions for further episodes or any comments in the YouTube video or in my Instagram DMs. All right, enjoy. Anyway, so as we can see, we have three people from the different varieties or different ways that you can use English philology or English studies. So Paula, you're more interested on literature, the more cultural aspect, right?
Yes. Yes.
Alex, you're a writer.
Yes.
And I am more into linguistics myself, and we have all worked as teachers.
Yeah.
Okay. So considering what we can do and how we use the knowledge we've had, in what ways would you say that you're more useful to society than before starting university?
Well, what I'm useful for,
Okay.
I think that I'm right now that I'm finishing the degree, I think that I know that it's a typical thing, but I'm more open-minded in the way that I feel like I have more knowledge about particularly English culture and literature and linguistics and so on, but also because I have new perspectives about history also because what is always said about that we only know one part of history, what is taught to us in schools, at schools and so on. So right now I feel that I have a wider a huge spectrum of different histories that are really existing or have existed in all the times, like for instance with the colonies, with the British colonies and so on. So I think that that's one of the things that I'm right now I can try not to judge at first something, because I have a wider spectrum of everything, and I think that I can be useful for that. I mean, with that, I can help people, or I can help myself to understand things better and not to judge at first without anything.
So for you, you're more useful in the way that the way you interact with people is more fruitful because of your knowledge about other things. Like you can bring new things to the table, is what you say, in pretty much any context, not only at your workplace or like with whoever you talk to, you can always offer something new.
On a daily basis, I would say, I think I can handle things in a different way, and new perspectives, as I was saying.
Yeah, I mean, like, and that sort of contributes to others' understanding of the world as well, right? You help others sort of get a new perspective, right?
And also, if I can add something, also particularly about English, I think I have learned, because we have been, as you said, we have been students, but we have always also been teachers. So I think that I have also learned how to be more creative in the way that I try to teach the language, because I know I see it, and also I have always liked English and languages in general. But now I see it not just as a tool, like you have to study because you need to know English for, I don't know, your work and everything, but also because it's a way to communicate with people. It's we know it's a kind of international language, so it's a way also to interact and to know new cultures and so on. So I think it's a good way also to know how to teach English so people can get the language, more proper way, more interesting and not that boring and useful.
I think related to what you said before, it makes you more aware of how English has affected, like as a lingua franca, how it affects other cultures, right? Because the fact that you have like Caribbean English from Jamaica, from like those islands, and then you have like Nigerian English, and it's not quite the same English, but you like, because we have that cultural perspective, that like post-colonial idea of how it's affected and how it's still affecting like the cultures around it, we can sort of be more aware of it and make others more aware of it.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's true.
And what about you, Alex? What do you think?
I was thinking more or less pretty the same. I mean, as one has more knowledge about the world, especially about the states, which are like the main society right now, the main.
It's hegemonic.
Yeah, exactly. So nowadays it is a mixture between your own culture and the influence of the American culture.
Yeah.
So yeah, especially in politics, when you talk about neoliberalism, when you talk about economics, when you talk about culture, the influence of culture, when you talk about cinema, especially literature, I'll talk about 20th century. So in a way, if you know about American culture and you know about your own culture, you will understand this strange 21st century that we're living. So in a way, I think that, yeah, knowledge is power. And the more you know, the more you will understand, the more you will help people. Yeah, exactly. Exactly. So I think it's sometimes people don't get the full picture, and you can help them in your own way, giving them some of your knowledge, especially as a teacher, because you are not, because people tend to think that we students of philology, we're just English teacher, the verb to be, the verb have got, and that's it. But actually, you need to teach some things about culture and some things about society and things about the world.
Yeah.
So I think that that's the most important contribution to society that we can, or at least I give. I think I give.
Yeah. I agree. Like, I think you both have a similar perspective because, like, although you're a writer, Alex, you're both like literature people, right? After all, okay, so like you attack it from different sides. Me personally, as I wouldn't know if I should call myself a linguist, but I'm more interested in linguistics. And for me, like the most things, like the majority of things that I offer are like random linguistic facts. Like, hey, did you know that this word comes from this 15th century old English word? Like that kind of thing.
Yeah.
Like we can be having a beer and I can just tell you random facts about the English language. Like, hey, did you know that this verb actually means this, or stuff like that? So yeah, but I agree with you. I think like that the most like beautiful thing about it is like sort of the new perspective that we can give, right? Like as a linguist, like I mostly focus on like historical linguistics. So like that, like you guys sort of give new perspectives in sort of a cross-cultural way in like the current time frame that we're living in, and I sort of focus on sort of the history, like the way we speak is conditioned by things that happened in the past, right? Like not only the expressions, but like the accents, the pronunciation, the words that we have, like like how like basically 60% of English vocabulary is from French, that kind of stuff. Like,
but
and
I think that they are both connected, right? Like I mean, in the way that you study also history, as you were saying. So I think it's really interesting also to know history from the English, or as you were mentioning, like all the French, German influence and so on, how everything is mixed, So that's what also you were saying before, like how English, but you are also getting knowledge about many other cultures at the same time. So in your case, it's linguistics, so applied to linguistics. So I think it's very interesting how everything is connected,
Yeah.
But,
I mean, like the English language itself is sort of like a melting pot of Germanic, Latin vocabulary. We have like so many imported words, and then like again, then other cultures import so many words from English, and not only words, but like the language itself, and you make like a Creole, these pidgin languages. So yeah, I think
I like it.
That's a good thing. I made my notes, but you guys said a lot more than what I had in my notes. Okay, so moving on. The second question that I have is, I'm guessing that before you got into the degree, before you got to university, you considered other degrees as well. Like, I doubt that this was, I'm not going to say it wasn't your first option, but you probably considered other things as well, right?
Yeah, of course.
Yes.
So if that's the case, to what extent would you say that studying English philology fulfilled your expectations of it?
Wow.
I go first now.
I think that it fulfilled my expectations because when I was choosing a degree, I was thinking on studying laws in order to become a judge.
Lawyer? Judge? Okay.
Yeah, a lawyer. Well, I was thinking more on the, if this kind of, I choose if you're guilty or not. I was also thinking on philosophy. I thought it was kind of complicating. I was worried about my mental health. Eventually, I decided to study English because I think that most of the writers that I like are English. Most of the ideas that I like, English speaking. I mean, because most of them are American. Many of them, actually, yeah, like 90%. And also because I thought that it was an opportunity in order to study not just books, but also the culture. Because you in the degree you do not only study poetry and novels, and you tend to study culture, you study linguistics, you study the language, you study also there's a small chance in order to study cinema, you study about the media. Also there was a time, I think it was just one class in which we talk about video games as a medium, I think.
Really?
We talked about comic books a couple of times as well.
Yeah, comic books. Yeah. We were focusing on ways of telling a story. And I think that the English philology gave this window, to this all these opportunities in order to talk about many things. So I think it's like a very big umbrella in which a lot of things are there.
Yeah.
So yeah, I'm happy.
Yeah. I think that's what it means to study English studies, as opposed to like English literature or English linguistics or English creative writing or stuff like that, right? Like it's sort of a blessing and a curse, right? Because you study so many things, but it's hard to really focus on one thing if you really want to. Like, I'm guessing that you, Alex, would have appreciated more subjects on creative writing or stuff like that.
Yeah, but well, there was, there are many ways of learning things. So I think also in order to learn how to write, first you need to be a good reader. And being a good reader is something that you become a good reader by studying this degree. I think so.
In my case, I totally agree with you in the sense that, well, at first I was thinking other options that I had when I was deciding this very difficult moment in my life, at least for me, because it was like, what the hell I want to do? I'm just 18. I don't know what I like, what I don't like. So it was kind of, that moment. But I was thinking in anthropology, psychology, and also I actually studied science at high school. So I was kind of supposed, to study some degree related to science. But at the end, I was like, what the hell? No, I don't want it.
I don't like numbers.
I know biology and so on. But, it's cool. But you have to be sure, I think, to know, because that's really, I feel that those degrees were more, I don't know how to say, but that they were more enclosed in a way, that what Alex was saying, like in English studies, you have like a more open variety of things that you can study, that you can learn. So I wanted a degree that was as open as it could be, in the way that I could learn, but also exchange things. You know what I mean? Like when you read a book, you don't just study the book like, this is the narrative, this is the first person, it's written as first person and so on, but you also exchange ideas. Like, I think that the author can mean that, or can, all those things. So I think that's a way that we also have philosophy, art, and as you were mentioning, like we talked about films, about comics, books, media, and so on. So it's a very, very open thing where you can learn about so many things at the same time. That I thought that it was a very good idea, and because I also love to read and so on, and I love languages. I was saying before, so I'm also quite happy with it. I think that it has fulfilled my So,
you're happy. So like in general, like the key for being happy with this degree is to want something that's sort of a broad knowledge on many topics that are sort of mutually applicable right?
Yeah.
Because like what you learn in the first degree about art history, you can more or less apply it to literature, which you can more or less apply to even linguistics. Like you can relate, okay, like if you change this for this, then this effect is different, right? Then you have like phonology, like the whole different study of, like how poetry works from a phonological perspective, for example.
Yeah,
like
I think that you do not become an expert on anything with this degree, but you sort of grasp a lot of things, and you will then become an expert in the topic that you choose. But you will have like a lot of general knowledge, I think.
Yeah. I think in general it prepares you a lot to like first be a good reader, not only in like in a text sense, but like you can read any kind of text and be able to interpret anything basically, right? And be a good reader not only of books and text, but also like films, art. You're like it teaches you to interpret it in many different ways, right? That's the main thing, right? And I think like if you're interested in that sort of broad knowledge about one specific culture that sort of interplays with every other culture in the world, then you will be quite happy. But if you want to be like purely a linguist, then you're going to be disappointed, right?
Yeah, that's true. Yeah.
All right, good. So,
and are you happy, Oscar? You haven't said. Are you happy?
Oh, I haven't said that. That is true. I don't know. I don't know, because I wouldn't say that I wanted purely linguistics. I was pretty sure that I wanted to be a teacher by the end of the first year, maybe the second year, because I had some sort of like professional experience, like a part-time job teaching or whatever. But in that sense, I don't know if I should have gone with something else. I don't know if I should have like studied purely linguistics, but again, like that would have been boring, wouldn't it? Like, because I do enjoy the literature, especially like the later like postmodernism, Beat Generation, the 60s and 70s. Love it.
Yeah, me too.
Like I love the whole notion of you making the meaning of whatever you want, right? But I think I wanted something else, but if it were just a bit more specific on any particular topic, I wouldn't have had the range of knowledge that I have now, or like the range of abilities that I have now. So I guess I'm happy with what I can do, but I would have liked to know a bit more, especially on linguistics, because like our degree was really focused on literature and instrumental language more than linguistics per se, right? I think like only by the fourth year we had like one topic specifically on hardcore linguistics. Right.
I was going to say that we didn't have too many options, to decide. Like we just had the fourth year in order to say, okay, I prefer these rather than these subject or anything. So I liked also that thing that you could choose which specific branch you wanted to get into, but at the same time, like what you're saying, like then we wouldn't have had all this information that we have now, all these broad things, but I don't know.
I think it would have been nice to have at least more hardcore subjects on the the difficult issues, right? And that I think is something that's not only to our university, but like in general, if you go with English studies, it's going to be like really focused on one side or the other. It's going to be really hard to have like a lot of knowledge on any topic, right?
Yeah, that's true.
But that's what masters and PhD are for.
Yeah. Okay. To be fair,
yeah, it's true. But I think that before this, all these, I don't know how to say, about the 3+1 or things like this. Like what I mean, we don't have that now, but you know what I mean. Like the kind of study that it says to have 3 years of the degree and then a master. I think it's okay, but then it's just a way to gain money from you, because before they had 5 years and they had a wider, wider
scope,
of things, of different, as you were mentioning, like they had, as the teacher has told us, like they have much more, many things like we don't have right now in the degree. So I think that perhaps that's the thing, that it has changed over time. So now it's like this.
I think that there should be a disclaimer for our viewers. That is that we are sort of biased towards European universities that have implemented the Bologna plan, right? Yeah. So like all of our degrees have to be sort of interchangeable or accepted in all universities around Europe. So if that's the case, they have to make a compromise and sort of all teach the same broad spectrum of things broadly. You can't really specify that much, and that's why you have your master's, right? It's more oriented towards that kind of specificity. Yeah. So take note, future students. Okay. If you're in the US or the UK, they're probably going to be a lot more specific. Yeah. Okay. So anyway, next question. So in what ways, so based on what we just said before, how we're happy and how we're not, what are some things that you think you missed out by choosing to study English studies and not anything else? Like, and what are the things that you found you're lacking from the degree?
I need to think.
I was thinking too. I think that I lacked because this year, I don't know if you had it, but they prepare like a kind of intensive course that you could study methodology, like for teaching English. But it was just I think it's new because they feel that it was a good idea, because it is, for people who are doing their internship at different high schools and so on. So it's true that we don't have anything of that. We know about what we're saying, like many things, and we know about literature and we know about grammar and so on, but we don't know how to teach it. I mean, if you have experience as you have, and all of that, but if not, you don't know how to apply all of that knowledge. So I have this intensive course, but I'm not particularly interested in teaching, but I know that it's one of the easiest, or let's say the most common goals in our degree. I mean, it's not the only one, I'm not saying that, but like the tip, we have to work on that. I would like to have had more information, more subjects connected to that. So
that was something that I had in my notes. Like I would have liked as well some kind of course to prepare me how to, because like obviously even if you're not planning on being a teacher long term, your first job is probably going to be a part-time teacher, right? Like you're going to teach English, you're going to teach like language, you're going to help them with school, right? You might be a freelancer, you might work for some kind of like extracurricular academy or whatever. But it's really useful considering that like 90% of us are probably going to survive as that some way or another. Like even if you like, I know a lot of people in the US or in the UK that they finish their degree and then they go abroad and they live around, and they find themselves in Thailand or in India or shit like that. I'm looking at you, Paula. Okay, anyway. And what happens is that there is a big market for teaching English, right? Not so much in Europe, because in Europe, like if you go to Germany, Holland, I don't know, the Nordic countries, everybody speaks English. But if you go like outside Europe and outside North America, there is a big market for teaching English. So if you go abroad and you try to like manage around, test the waters, it's really useful to know how to teach at least the basics. And I found that we lacked that. And I don't think that's only a Spanish thing, because we are in Spain and Spain isn't one of the best in English speaking. So there's a sort of a demand for English teachers. But in general, if you don't know how to transmit what you've learned, it's not only a bad thing for like as a teacher, but like, I don't know, like maybe if you want to be a researcher and you're going to have to give conferences, you need to know how to explain your shit. You need to know how to convey your ideas in the most effective way possible.
True.
And what about you, Alex?
I was thinking, and I think that one of the things that lacked was more creativity. More things regarding creation, like art creation or writing. But I don't know. I think that was something that was lacking. And also regarding, as you said, what does it mean to be an academic? To be a researcher, more on investigation, more on academic papers, how to write them, how to work on that. What does it really mean? I mean, because you don't really get the meaning of it unless you are interested in a PhD or in a master in order to go on that path. But I think that those two things were lacking, and also uh, another language, because we only see one language in the degree, and something like introduction, I don't know, at least a bit of French or German, it would have been nice, because if you are talking about European literature or European culture, you will eventually find either one of those, either French or German. And I think it would have been, or Latin, or Greek, or I don't know, something else apart from just English,
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, sure.
Yeah, that is it would really be helpful.
Yeah, I was thinking also. I was thinking also before studying. I saw. I don't know. Is it like that? A double degree? Is it like, I don't know? Like it's 5 years, and it was French and English, and it was really nice. But the mark was too high, so I couldn't get into.
Yeah, I mean,
but that would be nice. Yeah,
there is the possibility, like this is for you European viewers. There is the possibility that because most of the degrees are interchangeable and they have to have a similar curricula, you kind of have the possibility, if you finish English studies, you can sort of convalidate that for like the first 2 years of another degree that's very similar, like, I don't know, French philology or German philology, because the basis of grammar and writing is usually very similar, right? And like the whole cultural aspect, like you can sort of make up for most of the subject in the first years. And although that is kind of useful, because like that's sort of like one of the pros, the con is that, like, again, you have to make it sort of marketable, make yourself useful in the workplace everywhere in Europe, right? So normally if you focus on what you said, like French, Latin, German, whatever, like something like that, that might make you less compatible with another country's university system. I don't know if you know what I mean.
Yeah, but you mean like that it's not like we will lose kind of opportunities, like if we study both things, or I didn't get it completely.
No, what I mean is if you include, considering that like with Bologna, all the degrees have to be sort of compatible and interchangeable and acceptable in other European countries, you can't really vary much outside the standard curriculum, right? So what I'm saying is that it's sort of difficult to include that given the plan that every country has. Like you have to have a specific number of credits on something, and that makes you miss out on, what Alex said, like the opportunity to learn another language, or to like, because like it does play well, especially with French and English. They play quite well together, right? Especially from a historical point of view, and even from like a modern point of view. Like anything outside basic vocabulary is French and English. Right? And like teaching, right? You can't really include that, because like if you do that, you take away from like the primary teaching degree, because again, it's standardized across Europe. So that makes it sort of hard to have more than one course or one subject on it.
Yeah, that's the thing. It's limited. At the end, it's limited.
Yeah, it's limited. But I like, it's really a sort of an administrative, bureaucratic thing more than it's not like that the teachers or the universities couldn't plan for those courses. Is that if they do it, they're going to be sort of outside that standard.
Yeah.
So it is kind of limiting. Yeah, I know that in Sweden and in the US, depending on the university, you do have the option to basically enroll in any degree that you want, and you can sort of, if you have like, I don't know, another subject related to what you're doing from another degree, like, I don't know, I can study psycholinguistics in the psychology faculty while studying English studies, and that counts as 6 credits for, I don't know, the linguistic aspect of my studies.
And in Slovenia it was the same thing. Like there were people studying with me that were studying at the same time mathematics and things like that. It was like, what? Like, I was completely lost. Like, how can you be doing that? I wish to do, I would wish to have done the same, but I can, there. So yeah, it's got degrees at the same time, but I think it's much more work. than if you do like they do there in those countries that they can choose just subjects, so it's a very good thing.
Yeah, it's like they have this one degree and they can like fill it in with whatever they want, as long as it's more or less related to the same topic, right?
yeah, I like it.
That would be cool. I mean, that would be like I don't know, I would have chosen like a super strange mix of things.
Yeah, me too.
Like I would have just studied mathematics in order to better comprehend linguistics, and then I would choose cinema, and then I would choose, I don't know, maybe a language of programming or something like this, like some crazy stuff.
Yeah, that's a thing that
I think like if your university allows it, you should sort of take an interdisciplinary curricula, because it really helps with whatever you're doing, really. Like if you want, even if you just want to focus on linguistics, you can take from psychology, you can take from philosophy, you can take from anthropology. If you want to study just like culture, you can take from, like, again, from psychology, from anthropology, from history, from, like, you can mix and match whatever you need, right? That depending on what you want to do.
Also it makes you more individual in a way, so you have more like you have a more particular kind of curriculum with you, like a career in which you have different subjects, so you have a unique perspective over what you're studying, I think. At least that's what I think.
Yeah. Okay.
Regarding linguistics, if you could choose your own degree in sort of a way, I'm thinking right now of something which could be very interesting, because I know that you want to focus on linguistics. Something that would be very interesting would have been to mix philology in the linguistic way with engineering.
Cool.
And yeah, you know why? Because lately I've been reading a lot of science fiction and a lot of robotics and stuff like this. And I'm one of the things I'm most surprised about is all this artificial intelligence language and all this stuff. And I think it would have been super interesting in order to, if there was a degree, something like mixed both things, engineering and language. So
there does exist computational linguistics, right?
Yeah, I know.
That does exist. Or like, I think in our university there used to be a master's on that, but they didn't have enough people. That is true. Like, I've heard that, for example, Google now has either the same or just a bit more linguists than programmers, right? Because right now they're focusing a lot on artificial intelligence, on programming, on translation devices, right? Like, if you can like achieve the impossible and make a computer understand language the way that we do, that would be like a revolution, right?
I'm scared about that.
It is scary. Okay, so the last question that I have is, I think it's an easier one. Okay. Considering that there are some opportunities that are lost when studying a degree, any degree, right? Because you close yourself off to another branch. Yeah. Would you say that, considering like what you've learned, what you've lost, would you say that you've lost more than you've gained, or you've gained more than you've lost by studying this degree?
I think I gained more than I lost, because, as I said, most degrees are more close in a way. I mean, like, they're more enclosed, they're more like a narrow, straight path. Yeah, narrow, exactly. But in the case of philology, as I said before, I think that umbrella is a good metaphor. Like, a lot of things can get into there. It's like more. If it was a video game, it would be a sandbox, in which you can do whatever you want. You choose your own way or choose your own adventure, something like this. And I think I don't regret it at all, because I, work on topics that I didn't even think I would work with. For example, economy, history. I've touched all of those things. And if I had studied other things, I wouldn't have. Imagine I have to choose to be a judge or a lawyer. I would just be able to talk about laws, and that's it. And that's it. So I think I'm pretty happy with the degree, actually.
I think that's true. Like, if you're that sort of like right hemisphere, diffuse mind kind of people, it really is the thing for you, because you learn so much about so many. You become a jack of all trades, right? Like you dominate the basics of so many topics that you can really apply it to everything. I know people that study English studies, and then they can go to journalism, they can go to a master's in law, in forensic psychology, in so many things, right? Because they do understand and they can interpret pretty much everything, right?
Mm-hmm.
And not only that, like I think like if I had to sum up the degree in like one sentence, it's you have to learn very well. Sorry, no, you have to read very well and you have to write very well, right?
Not necessary. I mean, the writing part is something that you will learn eventually, because at the beginning, for example, I had no idea on academic writing. And now I'm kind of, I kept studying and I'm doing a PhD, but I've become some sort of an expert. But that's because I learned it in the degree. But yeah, you have to be a good reader beforehand. Yeah, okay. That's something.
Let me rephrase that. You have to interpret and you have to express very well. Not only like reading, written. Okay, like that's the main thing that you learn with the degree. Like you have to interpret pretty much anything, right? Anything that doesn't have numbers, you're good. You can manage.
And if you want the experience to be 100% useful, you need to be open, and you need to participate, and you need to be ready to exchange ideas with people.
Be proactive,
Yeah, because I don't think this is the same experience would be. It would be very different if this was like an online thing, in which there was no human communication, in which you were all alone by yourself with those huge manuals. It wouldn't have been the same. I mean, that one important thing about this is the human experience, the interchanging information, interchanging opinions, just talking. That's key for me.
Yeah.
Yeah, in that sense,
I also.
Go ahead. Sorry. Go ahead. No, you go, please.
No, I was just going to say that I totally agree, because there are people who just go to the degree and I know that people can be shy. You can be shy at first, of course, and particularly if you're like speaking in a language that is not your native language. But I think that it's very important to people that comes into the degree to be open to, as Alex was saying, to exchange ideas, to, even if at first you are kind of, like, oh my God, I don't know how to say this or whatever, you just need to be open to that exchange of information and that movement of ideas, and to be open to anything that people also tells you. So it's really nice to in that part.
Okay, so overall, you would say that you've gained more than you've lost.
Yeah, totally.
Yeah. I would say the same. Like like if you're that kind of like diffuse mind, these sort of creative people. I mean, you don't necessarily need to be creative, but if you like creative thought, like thinking outside the box, that kind of. Yeah. I think of philology as sort of, you take philosophy and you apply it to pretty much anything that you see, right? And like you take the same sort of philosophical thought process of questioning everything, and you do that but specifically focused on language things, right? Yeah. That's the whole thing. So you learn like this broad variety of skills that are useful in your day-to-day life, right? Right? Yeah. Like for me, the degree ruined cinema completely for me, for example, because like I know all the stories. Like you would think that you can be original, but no, like you are not. Like pretty much anything that you could have written was written like 300 years ago, and like there is that's like the final frontier of human creation. Nothing is new. You can reduce it to the basic particles, and it's there.
It's very difficult to read.
That was one of my main fears when I began the degree, that I would get everything that I enjoyed up until that point spoiled. That I wouldn't enjoy the same way the music, the books, everything. But I have to say that it's true that some things have become more ridiculous in a way. Something that I consider, this is great, it's incredible, turn into something, it's fine. When sometimes you listen to music, some bands when you're a teenager, and then you become an adult and you kind of ashamed.
Yeah.
Yeah, but that will happen with some things, but it's true that you will discover a lot of new things, and you will enjoy things that you couldn't enjoy before.
Yeah. It's
And
worth
even
it.
you will learn new things, new authors, new books, new poetry, new films, new I don't know, new text in general, that you will first learn that they exist, and then you will learn how to enjoy them. But yeah, it's true, with some things you will get spoiled. That happened to me. I see that you've got a poster behind you of Kurt Cobain.
Where?
There.
Kurt?
Yeah, it's Kurt. I mean, that once you read beat poetry, you realize the huge influence that people like Burroughs, William Burroughs had on Kurt. So you get well, Kurt is fine, but he's no longer the god I thought he was. You know?
You really do learn how to. I think like the main thing that I gained that made it worth it was, what we're talking about. Like you can really analyze things in so many different ways, and you can make so many interpretations, like readings of anything, right? And in that sense, that's the main thing that you gain from this degree, or any kind of sort of philology, and like philology is quite a specific thing for how broad it is, but like philology has this capacity to make you interpret pretty much anything, and I think that's the main gain that counterweighs all the losses, that you made by not studying psychology or philosophy or any other thing else.
Agree.
Okay, so I think we're about 50 minutes. I think we're in the time limit. Any thoughts? Anything that you'd like to say to future philology students?
Get ready to read.
No, just what I said before, like to be open, like to enjoy it, just to learn, and I think it's said like that, deconstruct. Is it said like that, or am I painting it? Like like the opposite of no, like deconstruir. How is it?
Deconstruct. Yeah.
Deconstruct. Okay. So I would say like that's the word also, like to get what you know and what you have learned about English, and also try to open it and learn about its culture and history and everything. So it's really nice. It's worthy, I think. Just enjoy it.
I would like to close with wait, sorry, Alex, please.
I have to say that you are going to read lots of things, and as you said, you have to be open, because you're going to find things that you will like, and you will find things that you don't like. And I think it's beautiful the way you like things, but it's also beautiful the way you dislike things, and you have to be open. You have to, you're going to treat with authors which are super boring. I, for example, have to say that I find 19th century authors especially boring, especially dense, and I do not like them, right?
Gotta respect Dickens, but that you can still not like him, but you just have to respect it,
It's beautiful the way you say, I love, for example, Allen Ginsberg. He's such a cool poet. He did all this stuff. But it's also beautiful the way you say, I hate Dickens. And you say why you hate Dickens. But you have to read it, and you need to be open in order to try to grasp the ideas, but also get ready in order to spend a week or two reading small passages that are so dense. So you need to be mentally prepared.
I think that a big part of it is okay, you can like or not like something, but you need to understand why you like or you don't like it, and you need to understand, despite your opinion, the impact that it had and that it still has, right? It's like again, like it goes to like the perspectives thing, right? Might I recommend Ways of Seeing by John Berger? This is like so good. Classic postmodern theory. All right. Anyway, I'd like to close off, if that's all right, by one of the remarks that Alex said in our in our graduation ceremony. That is, like when we walked in, everyone was like, like we were so excited about studying literature because we read like 2 or 3 Harry Potter books, and we thought in English, being Spanish speakers, and we were like, oh yeah, like we're experts on it, right? And at the beginning, we would walk into a bookstore, having barely read this, and you would ask shyly, where are the Harry Potter books, mister? And at the end, after 4 years, you got more than 500 pages back to back. You're carrying all that knowledge with you. You walk into the bookstore, you puff up your chest and you say with, the pride of a seasoned linguist or literature student, where are the Harry Potter books?
Yeah.
Okay. All right. So anyway, thanks a lot for coming to the channel for the first video.
It was a pleasure.
Thank you. Yeah.
Thank you for inviting me.
All right. So see ya. Have a good morning.
Bye.
Well, see ya.